Keen insights into big developing stories in the precious metals sector. What's going on now and what we could look for happening in the future. Today, we have a channel favorite joining us again, John Lee. He's the CEO of Silver Elephant Mining, and he's the CEO of Clean Tech Vanadium. We're going to hear his outlook, what he sees going on in the precious metals markets, and we're going to hear about exciting developments at both of his companies. John, welcome back to Ron's Basement.
Hi, Ron. It's great to be back. It's our take number 3. I just arrived from Mongolia from China. It seemed like the Chinese Communist Party had hacked into my computer and disabled my webcam, so I got a different webcam setting. I'm glad it's working now. It's always good to be back and share my latest insights with your beloved audience, one of my favorites.
Yeah. Well, you've said some very accurate things over the last, I think, year and a half that we've been talking. When you look at what's going on right now in the precious metal sector, silver and gold, any thoughts on kind of what's happening now and what you potentially see happening in the future?
Ron, I've been in the silver market for almost 3 decades, coming up to 52. Oh, it's so amazing. Time flew. A lot of times, Ron, when silver is 35, back just a year ago, just over a year ago, in July of 2025, that was a situation where the technical and the fundamental married together. Mm-hmm. And every time when I come on your show, remember, I said when silver go past 35, it would just go past 50 in a hurry, and after 50, nobody know because there's no really historical precedent. Every time silver went past 50, it only lasted for about 10 trading days. Mm-hmm. And but when silver went after 35, it would go to 50 in a hurry, which is what happened. Silver went to 35 in July. It took a little longer to get to the $50 level because it was in the summer doldrum and the cartels were able to sort of manage the market well. And then when silver is at 50, we said that the next level easily is 75 because just the gold to silver ratio and a number of matrix we discussed. You can go back to our previous show. We spent 20 minutes talking about. Sure enough, silver went to 75 and then blew off to 110, 120. I think we also talked about that 150 being that log target from the cup and handle formation, yep, where a more conservative linear cup and handle formation target is 75, but on a log scale, you could be looking at 150. And so we're very close to that. And silver was whacked in February, yeah, where unprecedented level on the record of the futures market were traded close to 1 billion ounces of silver in one single trading day session. And that was the equivalent of the entire annual silver production. I think it could be crowned. It could be justifiably crowned as the most manipulated, managed futures metal market in mankind. Yeah. And this there after that we have endured. I think there's a lot of people talking about silver gold. In my view, I'm not sure if I think it was on your show maybe talking about in my view that everything, and we also Ron talked about some of the cues to tell when the top is in place. Unfortunately, I didn't come to your show to say silver at 110 people should sell because you never know. Facts only in hindsight. But we talked about sometimes the cartels will actually buy the market to fuel that buying, relieve the buying pressure, to pickpocket the people, because as the price go up, the higher, then you have less purchasing power. So it was my view that cartel was actually fueling the market when silver went past 90, that they were actually buying the market to exhaust every single sense of buying. And from 90 to 110, that's why cartel in one single session were able to pull the rug from 110, 115 to the 70s. I think silver went down close to 40% in one day. Yeah. That is not natural in an orderly market. But even what I mean by that is if silver had traded to 110, 120 based on its own fundamentals without cartels interference, it would not have gone to 70s. I've never seen it like that in anything that I trade. So that means that there was a void from 80 to 120, and I believe that was a lot of the instruments of the cartels that were coming in that were bidding up the market to create that FOMO and then to perfect that whack. And so from a technical point of view, and then you see the volume really tailed off. So that means that unfortunately, coupled with the seasonality of selling May walk away, we could still be looking at a consolidation for another foreseeable future. I say maybe there's a rally by September, but this can go well into 2027 and 2028 for silver to, I'm not going to cut about 120 because I mentioned that was manufactured, but more above the 90 level, I think it's going to take some time. And that will coincide with the previous 1980s high and the 2001 high. I mean, never really went back to that 50 level. But in our case, silver is going to consolidate at around that 50 to 90 level. Just a couple of caveats too that's working against silver is that these you see the dark cross of the 50-day crossing the 200 moving average going down. So 50-day moving average for silver is 74, 200 is 70. So silver is below both. In about a month or 3 weeks, silver is going to cross 200. That 50 days is going to cross below 200-day. Same for gold at around 4,500 to 4,300. So that 4,500 for 50-day moving average is going to cross below the 4,300, and gold right now is trading at 4,100. And then you got the wars talking about removing the easing bias. And maybe I'm just cutting a program and talking about the first time that in the September you might get a first interest rate hike, and so that might create a natural bottom for the last panic selling for maybe silver into the 50s and gold into dip briefly below 3,900, 3,800, and create that panic bottom. You really want to see the market has a panic bottom with a rebound with a very strong conviction. I'm not seeing that right now in terms of volume, Ron.
Yeah. So when I think back, let's say a year ago, like you said, silver was at $35, gold was much lower. We obviously had the big rally, like you just discussed. But is it safe to say, for let's focus on silver initially, that we have entered a new pricing structure, that the bottom, the floor has been moved up, and that we're consolidating at this point?
Yeah, Rod, you asked me can silver, I remember in other shows, can silver go to 150, 200? I say I'm taking 6 months at a time.
Yeah.
It is a little surprising that silver and gold did not hold up their respective 200-day moving average.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have to respect that. Otherwise, what's the point of doing technical trends if they're both below the 200-day moving average and you start making excuses, right? So right now, the critical fundamental support levels are breached, and which means that the path or least resistance is going down.
Yeah.
And how low it's going to go, again, I think for any technical chartist, you're not going to touch anything below 200-day, and you got to ease your position if 50 days is about to cross 200-day on the downside. Right. So you could see gold go below 34,000 to between in the 3,000s. Mm-hmm. And for silver, I think that I'm for silver, because in just the technical trends, I mean, gold is very elevated level at 4,000 relative to copper, relative to other precious metals like gallium, like platinum and palladium, and like copper. So I think silver silver. I would say is the chance of silver go below 50 is very, very low in fundamentally in the technical analysis. And so if you want to pack a silver range for the next 6 to 12 months, 6 to 18 months till the end of 2027, you'll be looking at around 50 to 90 level, $50 to $90 level. But beyond that, we got to see where the dollar is going, what's happening in the Middle East, and there's also, I believe, a tussle in the administration right now in how they're aligning with the WEF. I mean, obviously, I think Trump was doing some of their bidding, but it seemed like Trump is having a change of heart, and we're going to see what happened there.
Yeah. I was going to tell you, we only, we only look at technical analysis when it works in our favor. When the bad.
Right. Well, what's the point, right? If you don't follow your own technical analysis, but right now it's bearish. Mm-hmm.
What about your? And I'm not going to hold you to anything, but what about your long-term thoughts on silver? If we were, if we could transport ourselves, let's say 5 years into the future, do you have a positive outlook on silver on a long-term basis? I mean, because I am, and I think a lot of our viewers who are joining us today look at silver as more of a long-term and gold as a long-term investment. Are you positive on the metals? Not sure. I mean, I know it's hard to predict 5 years, but if you had to, are you feeling good about it?
I think everything has a sort of a natural equilibrium relative, especially for silver and gold, which is money. And we talked about that before, in that if you watch some of these old movies or scripts in history, usually a ingot, which is, it's not exactly an ounce, maybe slightly an ounce, the size of your thumb. So that in the old days in the Chinese Kung Fu movie, 1,000 years ago, is able to buy you a nice meal, right? And so if you look at silver right now, an ounce is around 70. So that is sort of, so 70 to 100 is a bit of it's kind of a natural level for you to have a nice meal. Yeah. Keep in mind also gold and silver are very very elevated levels relative to all the other things, and that's my view. And then when the war break out, right, gold tanked from 5,400 to 4,000, and silver tanked from 120 to low 60s. It is my view that the people who bought I think it was, I can't remember, you showed that when gold was 4,200, when gold went from 2 years ago from 1,800 to 4,000 nonstop, and that made me scratch my head because I thought it was 2,800 from the cup and handle, 3,500 on the upside, it went to 4,000, 5,000. Now it's very clear in hindsight that people who bought gold and silver 2 years ago, they were aware that Iran, Venezuela, and Cuba were in the cards, and that Trump, when he was nominated, he gave his blessing to go ahead on this adventure, and that's why when the actual war break out, you see that climax, and they were selling their position, and that they accumulated 2.5 years ago. It's very, very clear to me in terms of critical reason and critical thinking and deductive reasoning. Now you're asking me how high is silver going to go? If you look at some of the other commodity complex like grains, like corn and soybean and futures, because the technology has advanced so much that it created a lot of arable, agriculture lands in South America, like Brazil, in Ukraine, in Middle East, in Central Europe. That the commodity, some commodity, agriculture commodity, and also in the platinum palladium space, they're back to $1,000 an ounce. So I would say, if anything, relative to the other commodities, that gold and silver remain at an elevated level. So you're telling me, John, how high is gold and silver going to go in the future? I would say, well, relative to what, right? You're not measuring. Right. You're not measuring 5 years from now. You're not measuring gold and silver in terms of dollars, but rather, I mean, silver is gone up a lot if you look at the market where real estate is corrected, like in the case of China. So not only is the metal prices up, but the other prices in dollars going down. So that creates a very favorable exchange ratio. So I don't have the answer, but right now in the next 6 to 18 months, I see silver at around 50 to 90 and gold at say 3,500 to 4,500.
Yeah. How much do you think the geopolitics? It feels like to me, I'm 56 years old, that the world in my lifetime, that the world now is more at odds. There's more geopolitical uncertainty than I've ever experienced. Do you see that continuing to be a big factor?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Yeah.
I was in Hong Kong. I had some couple of personal business, so I was in Hong Kong for 10 days, and then I spent a weekend in Shanghai.
Okay.
I have run in my 50-year. I first went to Hong Kong and China when I was 25, 23. Well, actually, I can't remember, but over 30 years ago. Yeah. I've never seen China and Hong Kong in the state of what they are in my lifetime. That is how bad things are. In the main streets in Shanghai, after 11 p.m., everything shut down. The Bund, Huangpu River, it was bleak, right? Wow. It was bleak. And same the case for Hong Kong. It is absolutely true that there is a divide, that your Google wouldn't work. Like I was Google for Hilton Hotel, I got the wrong address. And this is not some restaurant, no-name restaurant. So the entire mapping system did not work. The entire foreign capital have retreated from the Japanese, from the Taiwanese, from the Koreans, the Samsungs, the Toyotas, and the Foxcons, the Apples, and just the entire capital market has been retreated from China. and you're witnessing a real genuine price decline and decline in living standards.
Wow.
And so it's a very, very bleak picture. And if you look at, and interestingly enough, you look at the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. Hong Kong Stock Exchange is trading at below, it's trading at, I think, 3-year low. It just broke down. So it's trading at today's level, even below when the war broke out back in March. And Hong Kong Stock Exchange is well represented in banking, insurance, in technology, in some of the, it's not as well as represented. There's some technology components to that, and it's a proxy, a gateway for international investors to participate in the Chinese market. Like the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, 200, like I think it's around 90 or 100 components. 70% are the bellwethers of the Chinese companies like Baidu and Alibaba, HSBC, the semiconductor companies. Right, they're trading below war level right now.
Wow!
It just shows you how heavily manipulated the U.S. market is and the Japanese market is. And as I mentioned to you before, time and again, that I am not a bear of the equity market because the king, the peasants, right? The king already own 90%. Right. And that's why when there's times correction, there's panic selling by institutions, but there's a correction. But the minute of with a good news, you see that huge rally because they're, in my view, that the market is running out of sellers, literally, because the king already owned 90% of the stocks through Vanguard, State Street, BlackRock. They own 90% of that. And talking about the divide one more time, Ron, this Middle Eastern situation is extremely volatile. I follow the market. I also follow the oil market. And I want to share a couple of insights, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Got a little time on the show.
Sure.
That when the Strait of Hormuz was closed back middle of March, every single oil analyst say oil is going to go to 150, 200. Because in the days when Russian war broke out, like any sort of a oil embargo by the Saudi Arabia back in the 80s, oil doubled right away, right? So this thing, Strait of Hormuz shut down will be the equivalent of 20%, like 5 collective largest gold mining companies shut down their operation, and yet oil with trading is trading at 75. Yeah. And it turned out that the oil investors get a taste of what silver investor and gold investor had endured because the fundamentals didn't matter. I want to share this very important point with you, Ron. Yeah. I'm going to get to the point. Is a combination jawboning, is a combination of talking down on the market on a Friday, just like silver and Ron, like on a good Friday, on a low weekend Friday, you have a good employment report, a low CPI, and then the boys come out and whack the market, jack up the dollar, whack up gold and silver. It's the same playbook. I just know it's interesting that the oil people never, like they're getting the same treatment of what gold and silver investors went through the last 20 years.
And oil, isn't oil like the largest traded commodity in the world?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what they're doing. It's relevant. So first of all, they do the weekend jawboning, right? So in the case like Trump will say the war is finishing like the 39th time, they're very close to an agreement. And then something sinister, Ron, and pernicious is they talk to Japan and they talk to the Japanese to release their national strategic stockpile. Yeah. And so the Japanese were in concert with the Americans in suppressing the market by releasing hundreds of millions of barrels. We're talking like hundreds of millions of Japanese strategic oil reserves together with the American strategic oil reserves. Yeah. And these were orchestrated too, selling at a time when the oil was at the lowest, and the trader got that and flipped it for good market. Yeah. It reminds of Nixon, the gold window in the 1970s, and also the Gordon Brown 2000 when gold was 200, and the Bank of England sold the last batch of gold at 200, 250, and the Nixon was saying, you know what, let's sell the gold to smash the speculators, and then put the gold back to its proper place at $35 an ounce back in 1971. Mm-hmm. Looking at the kind of conviction they have to manage the market, and how receptive in the administration with no pushback do you, Ron, really believe that the gold in Fort Knox is still there? And even if it is still there, there has been long documented by very credible scholars like James Turk, whom I worked for, that in the balance sheet, like U.S. Treasury actually publishes balance sheet of the government's assets. I think around 10 or 15 years ago, it reclassified the gold from physical gold to called gold receipts. So it's entirely possible that the gold in Fort Knox was, some of it is trucked out at night and sold in the market in the 70s in the gold window, and some of it was swapped with the Bundesbank in Germany. Wow. So the gold in Germany, was belonged to the United States, was sold into the market, flooded into the market, and then the gold, whatever gold is remaining in Fort Knox, actually belonged to the Germans. Yeah. And then you also talked about a lot of gold that were held in London for the Venezuelans, for the Bolivians. You know, people are asking for their gold back there. You know, I don't know what happened. Nobody asked for it and actually got their gold back. So I'm just saying, like, how they manipulated the oil market, that you know, in releasing their national strategic reserve, that it becomes very clear to me that Bell read that they would have easily done that for gold as well back in the 70s.
It feels like I think the best word that I can use to describe it, it's the oil market, it's the metals market, it's the general stock market. Everything feels very synthetic right now, like not, you know, like synthetic is just the word that I can come up with.
It's just no price discovery. Every time something breached a technical level, it's all of a sudden, you know, the S&P like just magically go up, right? Yeah. I mean, we can spend a lot of time talking about. I want to go back to your question about WEF. I mean, they were looking for Iran to do the bidding to destroy the Middle East in destroying the oil fields. They want oil permanently to be at a century mark, over 100, to help achieve the objective of own nothing and be happy. And now seeing that Trump is having a change of mind, I don't think he's a killer, but he thought that Iran could be finished up in 4 days, like it was Venezuela. But now it hasn't happened, and Trump see the writing on the wall, so he's thinking about backpedaling and finish up the war. But all of a sudden, you're seeing the largest assault in Moscow from Ukraine. Hundreds of drones attack Moscow in all critical oil refineries, storage facilities, in ports. So it's very clear the cartels, the power that be, want to destroy oil because oil is energy, right? They want oil to be 100. Yeah. And let's see if Trump will solve a 4-day war, 3-day war. It didn't happen. Yeah. And I am not sure if Trump has enough conviction and say to avert what's happened next, because they want to go into Iran in order to further advance into Russia and China. China is only 500 miles from the Iran border. They want to stage their next assault into China, like, you know, a couple of riots in Xinjiang. You have UN peacekeepers. All of a sudden, you're there. And it goes back to the feudalism again, that you cannot have an energy block with a manufacturing block that revolve from the feudalism base, which is, so you cannot have Russia and China, you know, the largest energy hub and the largest manufacturing hub, stray away from this closed circuit utopia 1984 level in digital currency, social credit system, and micromanaging program of money. Not all of that will only work if you're going to eradicate the last rebels in this world, which is Russia and China. So we'll wait to see. I think the first telltale sign is you got to see the troops retreat, right? I'm not sure if that's happened. I don't think it's happened yet. So it's yet to be seen. How that's going to play out for gold and silver, I don't know. As I mentioned, gold and silver are selling right now because people were buying on the rumor and they're selling on the news of the war. So you got to wait for those people who bought 2 years ago, betting on the war to happen, to finish up their position. And then from there, we got to see a bottom. I'm not seeing the bottom yet. The patterns are not just suggesting the bottom. You're not seeing good, strong buying, right? You're not seeing. You're seeing this very rapid correction, but you're not seeing the rebound having a conviction.
Yeah.
The observations I see in China is there is not a lot of gold and silver buying, right?
Mm-hmm.
The silversmith, the silver shops were empty. I'm telling you, empirical evidence, they were empty.
Yeah.
Ron, I was in those shops. There are not people buying, like zero, like almost zero. They're not buying gold and silver, Ron. That's what I see in China.
Yeah.
And that makes sense because the retail, like it's an institution play right now. And if you just see some of those YouTube people that are buying, selling watches, right? You see all the people, they're not buying gold and silver. They're selling their gold and silver from their grandma's holding from all of this recycling business thriving right now. Yeah, so, I mean, it's not a situation of silver retail, gold and silver retail embracing the market. That is not the case in China. It's not what I see.
And thank you, because you're like a person with firsthand experience. So that's great information for both me and our viewer. You know, when I think about the geopolitical uncertainty that you talked about, the other thing that I like to remember with gold and silver is over, like you said, right, thousands of years, gold and silver have maintained their essential buying power. Like they've seen every form of war. They've seen every form of political system that have come and gone, power structures, but gold and silver have remained a constant. Would you say that's a pretty good statement?
Yes. I mean, gold to oil ratio historically trades at 10. So it shows another signal of oil of gold is sort of running ahead of itself, because at the 10 to 1 gold to oil ratio, then gold ought to be as if gold at 4,000, oil will be at 400, right? Oil is 75. Yeah. Also remember during the COVID rebound, gold and silver briefly crossed at $15. It was a $15 gold, $15 silver, and $15 oil. Yeah. And then subsequently, oil went from 15 to over 100, and silver went from that 15 to $35 level. So gold and silver overvalued from a number of exchange ratio already. Yeah. Another case in point about silver and gold, you got to remember, because we talk about money, we should really talk about money properly. According to Aristotle, gold and silver, the definition of money is fungible, divisible, it could easily be transported as a store of value. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of competing money in place, which is like, for example, if you were to own a share of Microsoft, that's easily as divisible and fungible and could be sold in exchange. Right. Mm-hmm. Then before you buy, you get you actually own the share certificate, like back in my father's days. Right. But now you can settle. You can buy anywhere from everywhere. You can settle within a day. You can trade that. So in many ways, the exchange mechanism has been relaxed. In that a lot of the commodities and asset has been digitized. Yeah. And they could very well serve as a store of value for sure, because they're limited in quantity, in supply, and they also have some value to it, right? So before you need to have the medium exchange for only gold and silver, because the exchange can easily be calculated. Like I can visualize that gold is worth this much and that much, so I have to sell my home in gold and then use that gold to buy something else. Mm-hmm. But nowadays, given how prevalent the digital era has become, that some of the luster and utility for gold and silver as money has been lost because of all this digital asset, even real estate. Like before, Ron, even 20 years ago, when I bought my first home, I have a title, right? I got issued a title. Even in Asia, at the back, you have the title, like a piece of paper. If you lose it, like you got to move mountains to replace it. But then, like, there's people who buy and sell, right? You see at the back of the certificates, all that. But now, when I buy a home in Vegas, it's like everything I DocuSign, right? And it was like, what the hell is it? So you can easily trade, and you have ETF for real estate. You can transact. You can. So before so what I mean by that, you can store real estate as a form of money today. It's visible, it's tangible, it's divisible, it's fungible through the form of ETF. So in that way, gold and silver has lost a little bit of luster. So I would say you buy gold and silver as a store of value rather than to speculate. If you were to speculate right now, gold and silver are not cheap. Not cheap.
But and I want to pivot here and talk about one of the companies that you are CEO of, Clean Tech Vanadium. there are certain critical minerals that countries need, including the United States. And I know one of the companies you run, Cleantech Vanadium, is now laser focused on a critical mineral called fluorspar. And share with us kind of your thoughts on the future of fluorspar, why it's so critical, and there's some exciting news coming out of Cleantech as well.
Yeah, Ron, we love fluorspar and some of the other byproduct trace minerals like germanium and gallium. As the more study we look into it. A quick 60-second elevator pitch is that fluorspar is all about artificial intelligence. It's all about energy production and energy storage. Yep. So what I mean by that is, in just energy production, 6 fluorine atoms is required to enrich 1 uranium. We talked about that before. Yep. When you take uranium out of the ground, it's 1% uranium. You have to gasify uranium to separate the 235 from the U-238. The U-2 through gas, and that is to marry uranium with fluorine. So fluorine is what I call the Victoria's Secret model. It is so reactive and exotic that it can even attract the nerdiest bookworm, which is uranium, most inner. So in the inner form. So once they got married, they levitate, they gasify, and you spin it, and the fissile lighter uranium gets spun out, and that is your nuclear fuel. Okay. And so every uranium, both heavy and light, out of the ground requires 6 fluorine. Okay. And then similarly, fluorine is irreplaceable in a battery electrolyte. So people talk about the anode and the cathode. So the anode being the terminals of 2 terminals of the battery. So the anode terminal is graphite, which is now being replaced by synthetic graphite, but a lot cheaper. And the cathode is what I call the transition metal. It used to be the exotics like the cobalt and the manganese, and now it's being replaced to iron, which is also a transition metal. And now it's quick and very quick. And so what's happening is people are getting attention to what's really in the middle, which is electrolyte that hold the lithium and sodium charge, and that is lithium hexafluoride phosphate. So you need 6 fluorine atoms to marry to 1 lithium atom to stabilize that. Think of it like a swimming pool. So the fluorine is the actual water that the salt, kind of like the salt water that make the water conductive to hold the charge, the actual charge of sodium or lithium back and forth. So in a way, you need fluorine, and fluorine is in 170 other applications in semiconductors as well. Semiconductor, you need fluorine to carry the exotic elements like germanium and gallium. You print that etching that onto the silicon wafer to create the patterns, and then the fluorine then is used to clean up the chamber and eating away the debris and the impurities. And so since we embarked on that journey for fluorspar 2 years ago, Cleantech is now the largest fluorspar, one of the most active and probably one of the largest land holding of fluorspar in the Kentucky-Illinois fluorspar district. And this district is equivalent of Battle Mountain for gold in Nevada. And this district accounts for 90% of the historical production. So it's a 600 square mile area of which Cleantech controls around 15%, and it's equivalent to the size of Manhattan. I spent some time in March, 4 months ago, in Kentucky. I love that state. I don't know, Ron. You got to go to Mid-Eastern.
No, it's right down. I live in Missouri. It's right. I've been to Kentucky many times. Yeah, great state.
It's a hidden treasure, people. I was Nashville, Tennessee. I had such a great time. It's safe. You don't know. We were camping out in the small town Paducah. Paducah. It's historical. I don't see any drug people, homeless people, or graffitis. The food is incredible. We were well received by the Midwest hospitality, and the area has excellent infrastructure, water and road and barge through the Ohio River, and we have visible uranium on surface, outcrops everywhere. Ron, I think we hit it's not the gold jackpot, but we hit the fluorspar jackpot. We're well received by the Kentucky Mine Reclamation Enforcement. It's about the team about 30 people, and the team that's going to permit this fluorspar is around a team of 7 people. So we met a few of them, and they understand the critical minerals. And guess what, Ron? They are building right now Korean zinc, bought out Nyarstar, the Tennessee Zinc Company, which is 50 years standing in Tennessee, Clarksville, Tennessee. And the U.S. government is going to spend $7 billion build the most state-of-the-art zinc smelter, not to process only zinc, but all the trace minerals like you talked about, germanium, gallium, all the exotics. And so I'm looking at the area. I was like, wow, where can I go in the world? I travel over 40 countries. You have English speaking, respect the rule of law, excellent infrastructure, skillful workforce, and rock solid foundation in the legality of the mineral rights. You don't have the drug cartels or the rebels, and now you have Korean Zinc that's importing the technology to help the U.S. government to build a $7 billion modern smelter. Granted, Ron, they're not processing fluorspar, and we don't need that. The fluorspar processing plant is in Houston. And which we're going to barge our product to the through the Ohio River to Louisiana to Houston. So transportation is not an issue. I'm just seeing a great revitalization of making America great again. I would not see. I would not speak. I would not pay a visit to New York and San Francisco and see that as a representative of what's happening in the United States. I see some great many things in the United States. So I think go back to fluorspar. If it's all about energy production, and allow me also talk about sometimes how oblivious and how late catching the U.S. market is. I remember NVIDIA 3 years ago. Well, I remember 5 years ago when Apple first crossed the $1 trillion mark post-COVID. And I was like, wow, $1 trillion. Like, that's unfathomable, right? Like, never thought about $1 trillion market cap. This is crazy. And then NVIDIA follows suit 4 years later, crossed the trillion. And now NVIDIA is trading at $3 trillion. I was like, wow, okay, this AI thing may be real. But then you see Micron, which is went up 500% in the last 9 months. So that got me scratch my head a little bit. I said, well, if like this AI story is not like it's more than 3 years old. So it just shows how late coming and sort of a nearsighted the American, the global investors are. Like if you really believed in the NVIDIA, the AI story, I mean, surely you would have bought the memory stock like 2 years ago, right? So all of a sudden, people bought the chips, people bought the stacks, and said, oh, I need to put the memory into the slots. And what's going to happen, Ron, and writing is on the wall, it's like gravity is inevitable. It's now people understood and realized that these data centers are out of power. And now you have people in Lake Tahoe, in Michigan, they're running short of power. And these positions are, these locations are carefully selected next to water because it also turned out data centers need millions of billions of gallons of water for cooling. And they need so much power that they're depriving the communities of power. So, but there's no power coming on stream, Ron. The only way you can get power, nuclear is clean nuclear energy is, but that's a decade away. Like, it takes 10 years to build a nuclear power plant, tens of billions. The only solution is what it's like Elon Musk says, is solar panels to be married with energy storage. So you need the energy storage to capture the sun when the sun doesn't shine, and also in the evenings when people are not using power, and that power can be stored and to be fed back into the grid to power the data centers. So in terms of the orders of this AI revolution is the chips, the software, the ChatGPTs and the Anthropic, and then the DeepSeek. And now we're moving on to memory, and now kind of then moving on to power. Now Jeff Bezos is talking to power, Elon Musk is talking to power, but after that, you're going to be talking about energy production and energy storage. And that's why fluorspar price is kind of 50% already in the last 2 years. I think it's going to go 3 to 5-fold in the next 3 to 5 years. We're in the early innings. And clean tech is one of the two only one of the two fluorspar companies with fluorspar exposure in the United States traded on the U.S. commodity exchange. I can't remember the exact time I kind of program, but when we started fluorspar, I was table pounding bullish. I said, you got to buy the stock at 3 cents. It's retarded. Like, you're in the middle of the best mining jurisdictions with utility power, mineral rights protected, and U.S. has no fluorspar production. The market capitalization went from 5 million to 100, close to 100. It's more than a 10 bagger. It's 15 bagger. So now the stock settled back at around 25 million market cap. And so it's around 5 times from the low. But compared to our peers in Australia, of which the Japanese invested this Australian fluorspar mining company, and their market cap went from 200 to over $1 billion, Ron. Wow. So this is exact same story, the rare earth, where the project's recycled out of bankruptcy 2 times, and now it's $1 billion, $5 billion. The germanium and gallium, which I love to talk for a minute with your audience. Also, anything with some exotic names on it, if you trade on North American Stock Exchange, is $1 billion. Yeah. The U.S. government is already tendering $250 million fluorspar to rebuild that strategic stockpile with national strategic stock reserves. Mm-hmm. So as the AI revolution story keeps on moving, it's inevitable that people will be embarking on this fluorspar. They're not only embark, they're going to embrace, and they're going to speculate on this fluorspar story. Yeah. And Ron, I want to spend a couple of minutes talk about what we're heading in the world. Mm-hmm. SpaceX just went public. Right. Before long, you're going to see SpaceX married with Tesla. And what we see in the AI, utility is only on the cusp of a major revolution. And you're going to see the artificial intelligence be married with robotics, and then with space travel and also space technology, because in space you don't need cooling and the energy is unlimited with the solar power. So you're going to see the energy production and a lot of the footprint of the AI in space. Also the telecommunications through satellite. So in 2 years' time, in 3 years' time, you're going to see almost a 50%, 30 to 50% penetration of robotics in your day-to-day home. Mm-hmm. They're going to be your companion. They're going to wash your laundry for you. They're going to cook for you. They're going to talk to you. They're going to be your caretaker. They're going to be your girlfriend. And that is, and like these robots need semiconductors. They need they swap their batteries while they're still working. They're going 24/7. And that's going to be communicated via satellite to Elon Musk's SpaceX, and then so you can see robots that are doing mining in remote deserts at 100 degrees in Pakistan, and you're also going to see right now all the data centers sorting packages. I was in China; they were making breakfast at Marriott using robots. You make an order; they're not only making coffee, okay? They're not cooking noodles. So you have these noodles, and then the robots were taking noodles, and they were just then they would dip it in the water, and then they would just it's crazy. It's crazy. So if you look at the South American countries, the women besides other not talk about illegal trades, but you like half the women are in the hospitality industries, in supermarket cashiers, and in stores, right? In running supermarkets and in retail stores. And then for men, a lot of them are taxi drivers. I would say maybe 20% of the men are taxi driver and hard labor. Unfortunately, all of that will be replaced with artificial intelligence. It's shocking. Like when I get an airline, it's the same thing. I hold a Taiwanese passport. I was in Thailand. I was in China. I was in Hong Kong. I don't even show my boarding pass anymore. So you've been giving your fingerprints for the last decade. Now they have your iris technology. They have your fingerprint entirely integrated and connected now. And so they have your everything. You don't need a boarding agent. You don't need a check-in and a ticket agent. You don't need a baggage handlers. You don't need a car driver. Oh my God, you're not going to need people to sort your package. They could be delivered. You don't need a delivery mailman. No. And all of that require power, and power is energy storage batteries, and that is fluorspar, Ron.
Fluorspar.
Hugely bullish.
Yeah.
Incredibly bullish.
On fluorspar. Okay, well that is duly noted. The other thing with that I saw with Clean Tech is you're doing some drilling right now.
Yes.
And are you starting the permitting process? What is there something going on with permitting as well?
Yes. Let me be clear, Ron. Clean Tech is dedicated 100% into bring fluorspar out of the ground and to our customers as soon as possible, because we see a massive hyperbola trajectories of the fluorspar price, and we want to capture that. The current CIF fluorspar delivered in the United States is over $600 a ton, 600, which is around 15 cents a pound. So it's still reasonably cost structure. And the stuff dug out of the ground of our Kentucky project is 30 to 50% purity. So we will float that fluorspar to 97% purity, just like you will float your silver and copper, you know, with the flotation cell, right? It's very traditional technology. And this area has produced 90% of fluorspar. So we got a refrigerant company, nuclear company that are knocking our door, talking to us because, oh, John, I bought fluorspar from your project 50 years ago. So recovery metallurgy is not a problem. So that implied that at a 40% grade, that the stuff we take out of the ground is already close to about $300, $400 a ton of materials out of the ground. I mean, this compared to, you know, some of the Eric Sprott's gold mining project in Nevada that's doing like half a gram of gold, right? A ton out of the ground. That's $80. Like people going gaga over $100 of $100 a ton of materials. Our stuff is rated at over 300, about 400. So we don't need to twiddle our thumb. Our mandate is to get this stuff out of the ground as soon as possible. We just hired a permanent full-time permitting specialist that is resident of Kentucky that know the permitting people very well, and he's permitted other projects before in Kentucky. So we're very fortunate and blessed to bring him on full-time. He's very excited. They're going on to the project in 2 weeks again. We have our entire team to go there back again. And we are going to be submitting. Our plan is to break grounds this time next year. It's extremely ambitious, but we've been around for 25 years. We permitted a mine in Nevada. We spent $20 million, and we're one of the very few, maybe less than 5 mining companies ever to receive the record decision from the Bureau of Land Management in Nevada. It's also in Clean Tech, the project, Vanadium project, so we can, when we say, so we know we can navigate the permitting landscape well in the United States. All these mineral holdings in private land, we don't have to deal with EPA. We don't have to deal with Bureau of Land Management. So, and when we would say, okay, how can we, like we're ready to drill, right? How can we apply for drill permit? Usually it takes about 3 months in Nevada. Yeah. And then we asked the question, and the people, they would look at me, this thing, like, why do you ask me for a drill permit with the reclamation enforcement? They said, well, if it is a private land, you don't need to dig a hole in your backyard looking for a well. So similarly, you don't need to. So I said, wow, great. You know, this is such a hidden treasure. People say Nevada is the #1 place to do mining investments research by Fraser Institute. Yeah, Fraser people never set foot in Kentucky. I am 100% sure it is the best place in the universe to do mining investment. And then. So what we're doing is we are filing 2 permits with the state. One is for mining and one is for permitting. So permitting will take a little bit longer, maybe 6 to 9 months, but from the time of submission. So we're looking at permitting grant maybe towards the later part of next year. Then you look at the construction of a 500 ton per day plant that can take another 6 to 18 months, 1.5 years. So you're looking at an operational processing plan. Sometime in 2028. However, we can start digging fluorspar out of the ground this time next year, and we can feed that. We can feed that the fluorspar to other repurposed zinc processing plants, or or limestone plants. And so I think there's a lot of maybe potentially permits we can have grandfathered over and be creative in processing fluorspar. The reagents used to upgrade to float fluorspar, they're organics like bark tree. So we're also very environmentally friendly. We don't use cyanide. We don't use toxic chemicals. So I think all the stars are aligned. That's why I insist coming a program that you can see a mining construction or mining production decision made sometime in the next 12 months. The drill program, the wheel is going to turn in August. It's a function of availability of the drill crew. Sure. And we're going to drill a modest 8 to 12 holes. Solely for the purpose to prove up around 200,000 tons of fluorspar material to finalize our mine plan. Because if you do 500 ton per day, that's about 200,000 ton per month. That's all sort of how our little junior company gets started. Yeah. So we're not going to drill any more than what we need to come up to show the market we have 18 months of materials to dig out of the ground. Then we can devise our mine plan accordingly. The Manhattan area, which we have option in mineral rights, collectively has over 740 drill holes, and these are not some Russian suspect drill holes. These are American drill holes by Alcoa's, by U.S. Steel, by Bethlehem. I mean, these are huge mining companies that were afoot in this area 100 years ago. They left because the Chinese flooded the market with cheap fluorspar. So we're very high confidence level of the data sets of the data of these drill holes, and collectively with a historical resource of close to 10 million tons.
Wow,
that's 20 times the current U.S. Current U.S. fluorspar consumption of 500,000 tons. However, Ron, in order for the U.S. to achieve the semiconductor independence of the TSMC plant in Arizona, all the data centers, you're talking about gigawatt data centers in Georgia, in Louisiana, in Michigan, in Utah, in California, and then also steel, aluminum production, nuclear enrichment, you're going to need 4 times more fluorspar, and that's 2 million tons. That's only a third of what China consumes today, of 6 million tons. And what China produces, it doesn't have enough to feed yourself. So that just shows you how crazy the story is. That China has actually become a net importer instead of exporter like rare earth. Yes.
Wow.
You're going to see fluorspar on the center stage in about 6 to 12 months. Yes.
And I'm going to show the website here in a second, and it's very pretty as well, incidentally. But you mentioned there's 2 publicly traded companies that are focused on fluorspar. Like in the United States, are there any other mines or several other mines that are currently mining fluorspar? What's that picture look like?
It's bleak. There are some very, very small, you're talking antiquated, intermittent productions in this Kentucky, Illinois district, but they're very, very small in scale. And as I mentioned, this is the Battle Mountain. If you look for gold, you go to Battle Mountain.
Right.
If you look for fluorspar, then you come to this what the call the IFKD district, IKFD district, Illinois, Kentucky fluorspar district. Gotcha. So this is where the elephant is. And in terms of comparable to our peer, which is in Utah, we look at the area. It never had a extended production history. So everything else is in my view insignificant and documented.
Interesting.
And now, like I said, if you show the map, we're able to get the lowest hanging fruit. So there is around close to 20 distinct fluorspar deposits. That's under option by Cleantech. So we control almost all the major mineral fluorspar trends in the Kentucky, Illinois fluorspar belt already. As I mentioned, we're either the party spoiler or somebody may be our party spoiler. Literally anybody who's contemplating into setting foot in this fluorspar district will invariably know us, want to talk to us, or want to work with us because we already has a footprint in all the major fluorspar district, all the major fluorspar trends in this fluorspar district.
Gotcha. And I have the website now on the screen for the viewer. Yes. Traded in Toronto with the symbol CTV, and on the OTC in the United States under CTVFF. And there's a picture of the fluorspar, the green mineral there on the right. Very exciting, John. I can't help but be
a little bit giddy. A little bit giddy.
Yeah, a little excited about fluorspar because
Ron, that photo you saw there, these are not stock photos. Other than the mining guy is a stock photo. But I insisted. I told my team, all the fluorspar photos you saw on our website, including the presentation, they're all actual specimens from the Kentucky fluorspar district. Wow. Secondly, when you see fluorspar traditionally purple, that's calcium fluoride. But when you have some of those exotic fluorspar specimens, you saw the green one. So that means it's interwoven with rare earth minerals.
Oh wow!
Incidentally, in the Illinois side of the area, of which is just across the Ohio River, that we also venture into the area. Cleantech, we got about 3,000 acres. But the Illinois area is more 90% of production come up from Illinois, very small come from Kentucky because the land is better consolidated by the majors. That's why the production comes from Illinois.
Gotcha.
The largest U.S. fluorspar deposit is actually in Illinois, and we have stakes on strategic plots in this project, which is privately owned. So I don't want to dive too much into it. It's a bit of mummy the word. But I would not be surprised that and there's also uranium and thorium and rare earth. So I would not be surprised to see some rare earth potential coming out of but for now, we're all about drilling. It's going to happen. There's a lot of catalysts on the horizon. In news releases, in commencing the drilling in about within about 4 to 6 weeks. Our team is going to go there, and then the permitting initiative in the mine and the plant. And if I also spend a couple of minutes, I know we're running quite long.
That's okay.
There's also a very concerted push by the government towards other trace minerals like gallium and germanium. So we heard of those names before because they were also common. Well, I mean, they're not common, but there's also occurrences of those minerals in our Pulacayo mine in Bolivia for silver elephant. So it turned out there's also extensive gallium or germanium in this fluorspar district.
Wow.
So especially, I just want to highlight germanium. Ron, we're extremely bullish of germanium. Germanium price has gone up 20 times in the last 10 years. It went from less than $10 an ounce right now to close to $80 an ounce. Wow. So it went from less than $100 a ton. Right now it's trading at $2,000 a ton. So which is around similar price to what silver is trading right now, $70 an ounce. So you asked me, Ron, what does germanium do? Remember we talked about the robotics and also all the missiles they're building. They dropped something like 30% of the stock of Patriot missiles in Iran, in a small, what they call a uncivilized nation.
Right.
And they're going to have to rebuild. And now United States is talking about backtracking or taking back the missile orders they given to Taiwan. I don't think it's because some feud with China, but because they don't have enough production capacity to restock the critical missiles. So think of germanium. The easiest way to look at germanium, Ron, is germanium is the eye. You talk about the eye, like you talk about the robots, right? So the energy for the robot, like the food for the robot, is energy, which is fluorspar. But the eye for the robot is germanium, because germanium is what translates is what interprets and detects the radio frequencies into digital signals.
Okay.
So like what you see here, like on the panel or on a beautiful women, or you see on television, everything you see is frequency, right? Gets absorbed, gets received by the eye, and then the eye then produces electrical signals to feed to your brain. So in a way, germanium is that crystal that would detect, that receives the radio frequencies, and then convert that into the electric signals. Yeah. So then, if you think about all the radar systems, or the night goggles, right? This is all, Ron. This is all germanium. Oh my fucking God! Like the eyes cannot see is because the frequency is above or below the eye. Right. The eye can detect. So the germanium, all these goggles, infrared systems, U.S. radar, heat-seeking missile, like heat. Like infrared heat, like different colors. This is all germanium because it's all about converting frequencies bound from these items into digital signals. So all these infrared missiles, radar systems, weather detection, weaponry, robotics, satellite systems, it's all of that gamut. Yeah. And that's why germanium and the world germanium production is something around 5 million. Let me see. It's the total germanium gallium production is 2 million pounds. Okay. 0.001% of the copper. It is 0.001% of the copper production. Wow. And let me be clear. This is why the U.S. government, and as I'm doing this research, I was absolutely mind blown. So I would highly recommend for some of your silver investors, which could go into the summer doldrum, looking at silver, which I'm saying is going to oscillate around 55 to 80 for the next 6 months. Do some research into germanium. Is that U.S. government? Let me say it a different way. Jeff Curry, which is a well-known oil analyst, used to work for Goldman Sachs, but now he's worked for Carlyle. He's a WEF, or working for Jeff Carlyle now. Carlyle, right, which is a George Bush company. He said succinctly, oil plays in critical just like germanium. They play a insignificant role in the S&P in the investor mindset. Investor can neglect this oil. Doesn't mean it's not important because but it constitutes only 2% of the S&P. You say, why would you care, right? Like it's not enough of a placeholder. However, these people you cannot quantify what he says. You cannot quantify these strategic minerals or oil, but you can qualify, meaning that you cannot do without. Like you will be, the world will be misery. So the importance is not measured in dollars. It's not volume metric. It's not volume metric in measured in dollars, right? It's not monetized volume metric. But well, it's not monetary based, but it's volume metric. Like if you don't have the volume, the world will cease to function, will stop. Yeah. And that's why it's extremely price. If you think uranium is price inelastic because it's 2% of the uranium nuclear plant. Well, look at germanium. Now they went from $100 a ton trading at $2,000 a ton. Yeah. If you think about AI, so go back to my point about AI. So the AI is going to need the fluorspar for energy production and nuclear enrichment and energy storage, and you're going to need germanium and gallium for the robotics, the eye to the window for the AI. So imagine that you're building the brain for the AI right now, right? The child is feeding itself in terms of water, in terms of electricity to build the memory. Basically, what the AIs are doing, Ron, they're basically eating and studying like a toddler, looking at singing and processing information, all the data. They're crawling all the spaces in the internet to build that knowledge. Like the garment factory workers and Foxconn employees that are doing the sewing machines and the assembly of computers and iPhones, they have literally a goggle glass so the computer can start training itself. Yeah. But you need now what's the brain to build the brain, but they're going to build the eye. The eye is germanium. Yeah. And the final point I want to drive at, Ron, is I know there are a lot of Silver Elephant shareholders that were so disillusioned with what's happening in Bolivia. You had some opportunists that took advantage of some of the weak times. Certain times in Bolivia right now is going through a bit of a riot to sort of took away our mining production contract. It's still in the process of being reinstated, but right now Bolivia is going through some uncertain times with lack of fuel and some old factions of Morales people that are doing a BLM style riots, try to reassert themselves of power. Okay. So it's going to take some time before that contract situation gets sorted out in Bolivia. We still feel very confident because we didn't do anything wrong. But while in the meantime, what has happened is just 2 weeks ago, clean tech, we got so much stuff. Like we got the sense of Manhattan, we got Chelsea, Times Square, Union Square, Middle East. We got the Central Park, Upper West, right? We got so much area, Brooklyn. So we got all the areas to say, you know what, we're now farming out, clean tech's farming out germanium, gallium, rich projects to clean tech. So what's happened essentially is clean tech, they're going to be exploring the same area. And so there's a lot of synergy. And that all the fluorspar centric projects will go to clean tech, which is more advanced because all the data that we have been recycling and consolidating, studying is all about permitting, technical data. It's all related to permitting and putting a project into production for fluorspar. But as we're learning more, and we found a lot of germanium gallium. So it's like, well, okay, so let's move that stuff to Silver Elephant. And so that elephant now has the one of the arguably the best, what we believe, fluorspar best germanium gallium project in this district. You're measuring germanium gallium up to 200 grams, 200 grams per ton. So that's actually germanium right now is trading at germanium is trading at $240 an ounce. Gallium is trading at $80 an ounce. So you're looking at the 200, potentially up to 200 grams per ton of projects, gallium and germanium in this project that has also rare earth and zinc and whatnot. So I'm seeing a renewed passion even for myself because one of the things, Ron, you as a person, right, as an executive of a company, or if it's just a person, it's a little bit, sometimes you're disheartened. Like my daughter compare herself to all the Instagram influencers, and they're so glamorous. But to myself, is I want to be what I'm doing. I want to be better than yesterday. Today, I want to do something a little bit extra to be better than I was yesterday. Same with the way of our running company. I want our accounting, back office, integration of our company, reporting structures. I want everything just to be a bit better than what we were yesterday in terms of delivering value to our shareholders. And Bolivia is such a trying experience that we'll try so many different things. Unfortunately, this mining production contract is like a toggle, right? So a lot of the efforts we go into toggling that decision might not be seen in the world, but we're working on that.
Right.
So it's real frustrating to communicate that progress to the investor because it's not linear.
Yeah.
However, I think with this new arrangement with CleanTech, now we can see some really, really very tangible progress with the silver elephant going forward, and we're very, very excited. There's some silver, germanium-gallium is associated with silver and zinc. So there's byproducts. So we're reinvigorating and finding that passion again for silver elephant. And now people ask me, well, John, if you have $1, you want to invest in silver, CleanTech, or invest in silver elephant, and they're both my babies. I always been seen as a Sophia's choice. But now I can confidently say you should spend 50 cents each
on each one. Well, it sounds like that while things are getting sorted out in Bolivia, and obviously CleanTech has enough on its plate just focusing on fluorspar that you can give silver elephant the germanium and gallium opportunity in that area, which sounds like a world-class area. It's interesting because it's only about 2 hours from where I'm sitting right now, and I agree with you, the people there, and it sounds like the minerals and the metals that are in the ground are super exciting, John. I feel like you and I talked a long time here, which is great because I feel like I learned a lot. And I think that our viewer also learned a lot. I know a lot more about fluorspar. I know a lot more about gallium and germanium. And now it kind of makes sense because I think a lot of us, especially maybe that are focused on silver and gold, we hear about fluorspar a little bit. We hear about germanium and why it's a big deal. But now it really makes sense. So on behalf of myself and the viewer, I want to say thank you for joining us. I know this will not just go on. This will go on Spotify. People are listening to it on podcast. You really kind of tied it all together, and obviously you're an expert in the field. So thank you. Oh, I do want to show the Silver Elephant website real quickly, if I can do that as well.
Yeah, you see the CleanTech, right? We just revamped that website. You see all this core? These are the actual drill cores. Wow. They are stored at the Kentucky Geological Survey for our project, and all these samples were actual specimens in the district. So, Ron, check us out, right? The symbol is CTV for CleanTech and ELEF for Silver Elephant. Yeah. The way you want to look at it is this, Ron. The world is going to build, somebody's going to build 500 million. Well, it's not 500 million. They're going to build billions of robots. We're talking billions of robots. So in a way, they're creating new humans. Jeff Bezos actually made a comment that we're drinking too much water. So these people are gravitating towards this robotics. I mean, you like it or not, that's the way it is. So why don't you take advantage of what's to come? Like, there's no point, grabbing about it, complaining about it, protest about it. Do something about it, right? Join the fray. So in a way, if you're invested, think about like maybe 100 years ago, you invested in McDonald's because you see that the people's going to eat McDonald's, and McDonald's stock is $2, and now they're $200. You weigh 50 times your money. The Warren Buffett is going to see that writing on the wall. Energy is what robotics feed. It's the food for robotics. So you have to have energy. And the memory is the micron, right? And the processing of the memory is NVIDIA. And the AI software is the thinking, the adaptation of the brain. But you need germanium to see you need eye to the world. So as the robotics catch on, you're going to see both energy, fluorspar, and germanium, which they are in a stealthy bull market, coming to front and center stage of this powerful, absolute powerful trend. The U.S. Department of Commerce has actually reached out to us. So we're in discussion with U.S. government, who are very aware of this critical minerals need, They have dedicated $30 billion in this areas, like the $7 billion plan Ron and I talked about. Korea and Zinc put up $80 million. So a combination of U.S. Exim Bank, Department of War, and U.S. Department of Commerce, and J.P. Morgan put up $7 billion. Wow. All Korea and Zinc contributed was the technology to recover the germanium-gallium, which is also a trace mineral. So government is spending $7 billion in order to recover that a handful, literally a handful amount of germanium-gallium out of the ground. That just tells you the significance and the critical, sort of a mission critical importance of these applications.
Of what's going on. I do want to show the silver elephant here. We have silver elephant on the screen.
Yes.
You can, that's silverelef.com on the Toronto Exchange, symbol ELEF, and on the OTC in the US, SILEF. John, it's going to be great. The only thing I ask you is that next time you're in the Paducah, Kentucky area, I am just 3 or 4 hours away. I'd love to come down and see some fluor spar.
Which way? Are you south, east, or west, or north?
I am west. I'm in St. Louis. So
okay.
a little bit northwest. I think it's 3 hours at most to Paducah, maybe even less. So
I am very, very bullish of US of A. When I went to Tennessee, and there's such an invigorating energy, such passion for life. When I was in China and Hong Kong and other parts of Asia, just energy was sapping. It's just sad, just sad overall. But this is not what I see in US of A. So we're looking to help make America great again. And this transition into AI and robotics and energy renaissance, along with oil and gas and everything, is really a dimension that your investors and your audience should really seriously look into. Oil right now, I think, is very, very cheap, along with natural gas. Natural gas trading at historical low, and the energy storage and production of fluorspar and the eye to the world in germanium. Check us out. I look forward to having your audience come along for the ride and update your audience in due course.
We could do a live video from Kentucky at the fluorspar exploration zone. So thank you, John. Yeah, thank you on behalf of myself and the audience. We appreciate everything you share with us, and we're going to look forward to seeing you next time.
With great pleasure. Thank you.